afternoon and welcome to the Women's Power Hour show. Joining me this week is Doreen Thompson-Addo, who is a miscarriage support and awareness advocate and founder of the Miscarriage Life. Doreen, absolute joy and pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Well, listen, there's just so much that we want to dive into. I mean, this is a pretty big topic and one that we don't nearly talk about enough, and it's really, really important. But before we jump into it, I think what would be great for the listeners is for them to find out a little bit more about you.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, my name is Doreen Thompson-Addo. I have one daughter. I have a 4-year-old called Ariel, 4 going on 14. I've been married to my husband, Reggie, for 10 years. We live in lovely Hampshire. So we used to live in London, but we moved out to Hampshire a couple of years ago, and we absolutely love the small town that we live in. As a full-time job, I work as a higher education careers consultant. So I work with undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD students, and I support them with their career development. But on the side, I do a number of other activities. In addition to the miscarriage advocacy work that I do, I also have a small side business as a voiceover artist, and I also enjoy the great outdoors. So I'm trying to encourage more Black people in particular to take up kind of outdoor activities. I know you enjoy sort of walking,
Yes.
on, but yeah, walking, cycling, skiing, all of those sorts of things I really enjoyed. So that's me in a nutshell.
You have got a lot going on, Doreen.
I don't do it all at the same time.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I know also that when we spoke, you shared with me a really difficult chapter in your life where you miscarried. So I guess just to kickstart the conversation, what was that time like? And, what help, support did you receive?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Yvonne. And, it's one of those things where it was a long period in my life. So we've had 7 miscarriages now. And the most recent was in March of last year, just before the lockdown. So you can imagine that was quite challenging. And then the first was in 2012. And so between that period, we experienced a number of baby losses. And it was hard on a number of levels, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it was just really, really tough. So emotionally, I think the first time it happens, it's just, you just never think it's going to happen to you. The miscarriage is one of those things that you hear about, but no one ever thinks it's going to happen to me. No one. And so when it first happened, I was just dumbfounded. I just didn't know what to do. I was confused. I'll be honest, I was a little bit ashamed. I think part of it may be sort of cultural, within the West African culture that I come from. It's just not something that's talked about. And, you get married, you have children, and you have big families. It's very part and parcel of our culture. So there was a little bit of, feeling ashamed that I wasn't able to do what other people seem to just do. Everyone was just dropping babies naturally.
Yes.
And I kind of, struggled the first time. But I thought, you know what? The stats are saying that it's very common for people to miscarry once. It happened a second time. And again, I was like, okay, 2 times isn't that normal, but the stats are still saying it's common.
Yeah.
Got to 3 times, 4 times. And I was like, okay, this is just taking a toll on me emotionally. Why is this happening? What's wrong? In terms of the support, it was very little support, with the current system at the moment, which I know there are some brilliant people trying to change. You have to miscarry 3 times before they will take any further tests, before they will kind of refer you for any additional tests. And even then, when I was referred, there wasn't really much that they could do. There was a particular sort of pilot program that they were piloting, but I wasn't eligible for it for whatever reasons. And so there really wasn't much that they could do. So, we kept on trying. And so we had a number of early pregnancy losses. So these were losses sort of before 12 weeks. But I also had a late pregnancy loss where I gave birth to a baby and eventually discovered that he was a boy, and that I'm still dealing with that today, you know.
Yes.
So just emotionally it takes a toll on you. And then on top of that, I also had an ectopic pregnancy. And so my journey, it has been what some might call a nightmare. I mean, it's hard having any type of baby loss, but to experience an early miscarriage, a late miscarriage, and an ectopic pregnancy has been emotionally very, very hard. Physically, oh my goodness, I have to give it up to my husband because he has seen me go through so much physically and has always, you know, been there for me. I will spare you the details, but you can imagine just, you know, physically going through, you know, the physical elements of miscarrying, the physical elements of having a late miscarriage and having to, you know, give birth to a child that you know is not alive. And that was really hard. And then when I had the ectopic pregnancy, mine was quite severe. So I had to have an operation. My fallopian tube had actually ruptured. And so I had to have that removed. And so it's hard. And this is the thing, Yvonne. I think a lot of women experience this, but we just don't talk about it, or it's not spoken about that much. And I was very much in that camp. I was very much, it's happened. I didn't talk to people about it. Of course, I spoke to my husband, my immediate family. But beyond that, you know, I'd go to work and act like everything was fine. I wouldn't say to my colleagues that this is what I'd experienced. I think the first time I did, but then especially if you're going through multiple miscarriages, you just think, you know, are work do they care? You just think, okay, I'm just gonna deal with it myself and kind of move on. But I am really delighted to see now that so many employers are taking this into consideration now. So you've got some fantastic employers offering miscarriage leave to their staff members and leave to go and have appointments. I wish I had that when I was going through mine, but it's really nice to see it's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whenever we see any kind of progress in these areas, you know, even if it wasn't there at the time when we needed it, it's just good to know that it's there.
Really good to know. It's so really important. It's so good to know. And I think, you know, if I had that level of support from employers before, it would have just made things easier, you know, having to, you know, you don't want to use your annual leave to take time off, and, you know, so knowing that that is there now will provide a lot of support for people that have gone through this. That's great.
Well, Doreen, I have to say that is a lot. Let me just, you know, that, you know, for over 9 years span, that is a lot for you to have gone through emotionally, physically, mentally. So I am delighted that you have your daughter.
Yes, my miracle angel is here.
Oh, she is a beauty, let me tell you.
Oh, thank you.
And, you know, and obviously with the loss from last year as well, so there's still that much to cope with. But I think this is the great thing, is that having somebody who is willing to share their story and open the conversations is critical, because nothing changes until we raise the awareness and we have the conversations.
You're absolutely right, Yvonne. And I think it is about stepping out and being bold and fearless about this. You know, even in my community, I am very aware that there are individuals that are not happy about me sharing my story and talking about this type of thing. Somebody has to kind of step up and say, do you know what? I'm going to add my voice to this cause. I'm going to add my voice to this issue. And I think that the more people that are comfortable doing it, because I know everyone's different, you know, and everyone goes through this. This is a very personal journey for individuals. And I do know people that, you know, don't want to talk about it. And I think that's fine if that's an informed choice that you've made. But if you do want to talk about it and you're fearful, or you're worried about what other people might think, you know, I've had to come to a place where I've said to myself, okay, you know, I can't please everyone. You know, if my story can help someone else or inspire someone else or get someone else to advocate for themselves, then I'll go ahead and be a voice wherever I can.
Wonderful. And, you know, thank goodness for you. With that, we're going to have a little break. Right, we are back, and as I said, my guest in the studio this week is Doreen Thompson-Addo, who is a miscarriage support and awareness advocate, founder of the Miscarriage Life, amongst many other things. But as we're focusing on this particular topic, that's how I'm introducing her to you. And if you missed the first part of the show, I would just encourage you to go back and listen, because Doreen really shares her story, her journey, incredibly powerful, and really is creating that space for women who want to start talking about this in a much more open way to do so, and knowing that it's part of the healing process for those who are ready and able to do so. Now, I know, Doreen, when we spoke before, you cited a report to me about miscarriages in women from the Black community specifically. So can you share the disparity and your thoughts on why this may be the case?
The disparity, I won't lie to you, Yvonne, shocked me to the core. And I think it shocked the researchers as well. So the background to this report was a report that was commissioned by a phenomenal charity called Tommy's. So Tommy's are a charity that does a lot of research into a number of baby loss scenarios. And they commissioned a report with the Lancet, who are an esteemed scientific body. And the Lancet conducted research into miscarriage. And one of the surprising findings, so I don't think they were even looking for this finding, but one of the surprising findings that came out from this report was that Black women are 40% more likely to miscarry than other races. 40% more likely. That for me was an extremely high figure. Now, they did say in the report that further research needs to be done into the reasons why, but as a Black woman, you can't help but think, okay, what's really going on here? You know, I think for a lot of us, is there some kind of institutional racism going on? Is there some type of, health inequality at play here? We all have the same sort of reproductive organs. So why is it that one particular race has a significantly much higher rate of miscarrying than other races? It was really shocking. And I'm looking forward to them investigating it further and doing more research into it. But I think many people are kind of leaning towards health inequalities in some sense, because it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, that's massive. Within the findings, there was nothing that they could specifically pinpoint towards.
No, I mean, they did say, in the report that they talk about socioeconomic background, they talk about, your health conditions, etc. But they said that they need to do further research into why Black people in particular were at higher risk. They spoke generically about risks that individuals could face when it comes to miscarriage and factors that can contribute to it. But when it came to a specific group of women, i.e. Black women, they weren't able to give a kind of a definitive reason, and further research needs to be done. And I'd be interested to see what comes out of that, because I think for myself and other Black women that have been through this, you can't help but wonder, in my situation, I did sit there and think, could I have therefore had more children? Or could I have therefore not have miscarried as many times than I did? It just adds to the already traumatic experiences that we already face as Black people. There's institutional racism in the workplace, there's institutional racism, in our communities. The thought that there could be some type of racial inequality with regards to, healthcare and maternity, it's really sad. It's really sad. And, we do know, what we do know is that when it comes to maternal mortality and maternal morbidity, Black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. So from the childbirth section, we know from what the data and the research says that Black women are more likely to experience death and morbidity. And the data does show that that is down to health inequalities and potential institutional racism there. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's a similar situation when it comes to trying to have a baby and trying to conceive. Yeah, there's some brilliant organizations doing some fantastic work in the sort of childbirth side of things.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the outcomes from the additional research.
Indeed.
So I guess the next question that I want to ask you is, what health steps can women take to reduce the chances of miscarriage, if any?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And again, I think every woman's situation is different. But I remember when I was going through my journey, funnily enough, I traveled to Ghana, where I'm originally from, and I met up with a renowned gynecologist and kind of reproductive expert who used to be based in the UK, but moved to Ghana because he was really passionate about demystifying kind of the beliefs that people in Ghana might have about having children, etc. So he set up a fantastic clinic there, and I went to go and see him. And I asked him the same question. I said, what is there anything that I can do to increase my chances of, having a child and not miscarrying? And he said, it's very difficult to say, you can't say, do X, Y, and Z, and guaranteed you will have a child. But, he did say things like, which is, why I love your show. He talked about the importance of taking care of yourself. He talked about the importance of stress. And he did say, stress doesn't cause miscarriage, but he said, these are the sorts of things that can really help you as an individual. So he said to me, try and create environments where you are not stressing too much, because at the time I was quite stressed. So he talked about taking care of myself, exercise. He spoke a lot about exercise. He spoke a lot about my BMI. And I remember saying to him, I said, but I'm not like hugely overweight. And he said, it's not about being overweight, but reducing your BMI can sometimes help. He spoke a lot about nutrition. So making sure I was eating the right food and nourishing my body with the right type of nutrients and food. And so those sorts of things, like I said, won't guarantee that you won't miscarry, but it can go a long way to making sure that you are physically and emotionally at least in a good place.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a good place.
Yeah, I hear that. And to be fair, those things that you said are really things that we need to be striving for
anyway,
for quality of life, right?
Exactly.
So that makes complete sense. Okay, brilliant. Okay, we're going to take another break. We are back. We've got Doreen Thompson-Addo in the studio, miscarriage support and awareness advocate, founder of the Miscarriage Life. Just some of the many things, talents and skills this woman brings to the table. We've been having a wonderful and a very meaningful conversation about the topic of miscarriage, the personal story shared, as well as some statistics and facts around Black women and miscarriage, and really, trying to understand what's going on there, but also how we as women can best look after ourselves to perhaps slow that possibility down in some shape or form. Now, you are a mother, a wife, a consultant. How do you ensure that your needs are met in terms of self-care? How do you prioritize that?
Gosh, that's a really great question. And I always say to my friends that I have my kind of solid foundations, and if those foundations are shaken up in any way, I'm not as productive and I'm just not the greatest person to be around. And so I have my physical foundation, my spiritual foundation, and kind of my emotional mental health foundation, a kind of core foundation that I have to take care of and prioritize. And I've noticed that if one of them is kind of out of kilter, then I'm just not myself.
Yeah.
And so I try as much as I can to, to exercise. I haven't done it recently, I will admit. I need to head back to the gym. I need to get back and do some exercise. This COVID weight is just creeping up on me. But I try wherever I can to get some exercise in. Prayer and meditation is something that is very important to me. When I do those things on a regular basis, it helps me be a better mum. It helps me be a better employee, and my energy levels are much higher. So for me, the way that I try and prioritize it is to remind myself of what will happen if I don't do it. So I know that if I miss out on exercise for a long period of time, I feel sluggish, I feel tired. I know if I'm not meditating and praying regularly, I don't feel as kind of emotionally strong and bold. Yes. And so it's reminding myself, okay, Doreen, what the benefits are of exercise. What the benefits are of taking time out to meditate. What the benefits are of taking care of your mind. Don't leave it too long to not do it. Because I think sometimes with my daughter and with work and everything else that's going on, it can be quite hard to do these things on a daily basis. There's a huge community of people that are getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the 5 a.m. club. Yes. I tried doing the 5, it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. So, I said to myself, I'm going to get up at 5 in the morning, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do this, and then by 7 o'clock, I'm ready to start the day. And I could try it again, but it didn't work for me. So you've got to find what works for you. Everyone's notion and everyone's perception of prioritizing is different. Some people are the early morning people, some people are the night owls, some people are the ones that an outcome of the pandemic has meant that many people are now working from home, and it's enabled them to perhaps take a break from their computers, quickly go for a walk or do a quick, Joe Wicks exercise, or Chloe Ting, whoever it is that you're using on YouTube. And, that might be, their time to prioritize their self-care, but you've got to find out what works for you and try and stick to it. So for me, it's knowing what my sort of foundations are and finding a suitable time that works to incorporate that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, self-care is huge. I mean, what it encompasses. So we should never limit ourselves by it, and like you said, it's a little bit of, for me, I always think it's like exploring and playing around until you find the things that work for you. Just getting that balance.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to, I work at another university to where I work now, and there was a colleague who, for her, self-care was literally putting on some headphones and listening to extreme heavy metal music. Now that would not work for me.
No.
But that was her way of managing her stress and managing her anxiety. She would listen to hardcore heavy metal music, and that would really help her. And that's what I mean. You find out what works for you and you hold on to that tight, because you know that the outcome of that is going to be a happier, more energetic, more productive you.
Nice. So I was actually going to say, what is your top self-care tip for listeners?
So like I said, number one is know your foundations. And so, what are the foundations that work for you and that make you sort of the best possible you? Like I said, for me, it's my physical foundation, emotional and spiritual foundations. For you, it could be something else, but figure out what are these sort of core things that are important to you, that helps you with your own self-care and with you being sort of the best person that you can be.
Nice.
And then the second one that I say to quite a few, because I work with a lot of young people, one of the things I do say to them is control social media.
Oh, yes.
Do not let social media control you. Because I do find, speaking to a lot of young people, that social media has got wonderful benefits, don't get me wrong. But research is showing that there is also a dangerous side to social media, particularly when it comes to the mental well-being of young people. And that's something I'm quite, I'm very passionate about, having experienced mental health challenges myself. I know, I can imagine what it's like for young people to, constantly be scrolling on these, social media platforms and seeing these visions of people so-called living their best lives and having it all and doing it all, and you comparing your lives to theirs and feeling down because your life is not like somebody else's, curated life on social media. And so I think for me, a self-care tip for me is, particularly for younger listeners, is control social media. Social media doesn't have to control you, if you choose for it not to. So I have digital detoxes from time to time.
Nice.
I make sure that when I finish work, I have my kind of shutdown ritual, and I don't get back onto my computer until the next day, because that time after I've turned off my computer is for my family, and so I think it's really important to incorporate some of that into your life, because you will find it so much more rewarding and so much more fulfilling. And I guess the third thing, which I know you would agree with, is get out there in nature. I love nature. I absolutely love being outdoors. There's just something about going for walks and being by the sea and taking in the fresh air. And if you're doing it with somebody else, it's just really lovely, just being outdoors and doing what works for you. It might be skateboarding, it might be walking, cycling, rock climbing, but I really believe in the health benefits of being outdoors. I think it's a great self-care tip, emotionally, physically. Get outdoors if you can.
Absolutely. And we talk about all the things we can do in nature, but sometimes it's just about being in nature. Go and find a spot and just be in nature. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And really appreciating how much it can help to calm the nervous system and just make you feel better. It's lush.
100%.
I love it.
100%. I love it too, Yvonne. I'm with you there. I am with you.
If we lived closer, we could go walking together, but hey ho. Okay, so we're going to play another song choice, and then when we come back, just give you an opportunity to share with the listeners how they can find out more about what you do and connect with you. Right, so we are back. We have been having a fantastic conversation, Doreen and I. Doreen Thompson-Addo, who has been sharing her story, her journey through miscarriage, sharing some eye-watering statistics also around Black women and miscarriage, and basically self-care, how we can best look after ourselves, what she does personally, and some great tips for you, the listener. Now, of course, Doreen, for anyone who has been listening and perhaps has been touched by the conversation, the topic itself, and would like to kind of maybe even just find out more about what you have been doing and how perhaps they may be able to amplify that with their own voice, how can they get in touch with you and find out all your good work?
That's a really great question. Thank you. So I did have an Instagram page, which I've recently deactivated. And I deactivated it because what I was finding was that I think people, within the communities that I'm a part of, wanted to follow the page. But I think with Instagram, if you followed my page, it was quite obvious that you were following a miscarriage page.
Yes.
And I think because of the fact that there are still kind of taboos and things around it, people were saying that they would like to follow, but they're just not ready to do so publicly. So what I've done is I'm working on a blog site instead. So I do have a blog site, the miscarriagelife.com, and on that blog site I will be posting a variety of stories. I would eventually love, like I was saying, to amplify the voices of others that have experienced miscarriages and baby losses, and really use it as a platform to advocate for all women, but in particular Black women that have been going through this, so that, you know, eventually, you know, if another report is commissioned into miscarriage, we won't see the statistic that says Black women are 40% more likely to miscarry. So that's the kind of ultimate goal of the Miscarriage Life blog, to inform, to create a community, and to advocate.
Wonderful. And, you know, I just want to say, Doreen, you know, thank you so much for literally taking the baton on this and moving it forwards, because much like other topics around women's health, menopause and all these things, they've just been shut down and behind closed doors for so long, and nothing changes behind the closed door.
No.
We need to bring it front and center. So, you know, kudos to you for doing this. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And yeah, you have been an amazing guest. Brilliant conversation.
A fantastic host. I've absolutely enjoyed this time.
It's been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, thanking you on behalf of me and thanking you on behalf of our listeners. It's been great. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, Yvonne, and continue being phenomenally amazing.
Oh, I'm working on it. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you.